Hi guys, welcome to another episode of Football Obsession. Today I'm with Scott. You've been on before, haven't you?
Yeah.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm not bad, lad. How are you?
Good. Yeah, I was just saying I've been suffering with headaches recently, but I'm gonna get better. I'm gonna be all right. Don't worry about me, obviously. But as I say, United's just stressing me out.
Yeah.
But we'll get into that. Obviously, it's going to be another Premier League game week review. We'll just go through all the games. We're going to start with a game that was sort of significant in Aston Villa's history in the sense of the current manager that was in charge in Dean Smith. Southampton 1, Aston Villa 0, and that game sort of symbolised their form this season. Five losses in a row, without a win in like 6 games. The defence was a mess, constantly chopping and changing formation, chopping and changing the starting lineup. It just was a mess, wasn't it?
Yeah, even dropping the captain Mings, I think the week before was a bold call that didn't work because they obviously got beat. Who did they lose to? Yeah. I remember they went out 10 men, but they lost at home. And West Ham battered them, didn't they?
Yeah.
And I to be honest, I think they're right on the wall for Dean Smith. I think he has actually got quite a good squad, and you just can't lose with a team of that quality. For me, you just can't lose 5 games on the bounce. I know it's quite ruthless because he did quite well and took them up and all this, but it's a ruthless league, isn't it? There's so much money involved that you just can't. You can't mess around anymore.
No. I agree with you. One of my best mates, Jordan, is an Aston Villa fan, and I was speaking to him about it. So obviously, you see me on Twitter. I'm very active on Twitter, and I've seen a lot of people wanting Dean Smith out for like 5 weeks now, maybe a little bit shorter.
Yeah,
something around that time frame. And my mate Jordan had a different perspective in sort of the sense of he loves Dean Smith for being an Aston Villa fan and for bringing them up. However, he sort of came to the realization this week, last week, that it just sort of had to end in the sense of it was too much for Villa to keep going through as a club. That as they say, no man is bigger than a club. So it's obviously come to a sad end for them. But these managers in talks. I've seen that Steven Gerrard is in talks with them. I don't know who else is in talks. Who do you think the
idea? Got a shout for it as well. From what
Who do you think the idea?
I actually would go Hasenhüttl. I think he's the one. I think he's quite a underrated manager because I don't think people realise how bad that Southampton team actually is.
Yeah.
Even a few minutes ago, we were doing a Leeds United and Southampton combined 11. And although it's not that far off in how many players get in. If you look, we've got star quality in Rafinha and obviously Phillips, and they just don't have anyone on that level besides maybe Ward-Prowse at a push. But it's just such a poor team, and I think he's obviously even on a good run at the moment. Southampton actually beating Villa, and I think he'd do a great job, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree with you. I also think Ralph Hasenhüttl's mentality is somewhat underrated because to lose 9-0 once, like as much as it gets laughed at, but to lose 9-0 once is like a traumatic thing in football terms for a team to go through and a manager not to be sacked after that. And then to lose 9-0 again and then come back from that again to even get another win in the league. It's a huge thing for
it shows
a manager to come back. Yeah, exactly. It shows his character. It shows his strength in sort of his resilience. So I think obviously it's going to take time for the new signings at Villa to settle in. You've got Danny Ings, who's been injured. I think you've got Leon Bailey, and you've got who else? Buendia that they signed, and they've just not settled in yet.
I think a few of them have struggled with injury as well, and Buendia obviously I think went to Argentina with the Argentinian squad or something like that.
Yeah.
Well. So there has been reasons why they haven't sort of reached the potential yet, but.
Yeah,
I still don't think there's much excuse for Smith.
Oh no! I completely agree with you. There's not much excuse to lose like 5 on the row and nothing change after a certain amount of games.
Yeah.
However, I just think that it may take time for the new manager to get used to things, but I think that squad is definitely good enough, a lot better than it's doing now. Whereas it's in like sort of relegation form right now, which reminds me of another team who we were just discussing off camera. We'll get into that later. I'm just going to get into 2 comments here. Wallen says, yo, let me just move my camera down a little bit. Wallen says, yo, I hope you're all right, Alan. And Hayden says, all right, lads, I hope you're all right too, Hayden. Just wanted to get into them comments there. We'll move on to Brighton versus Newcastle. Now, I don't know if you've seen my Twitter over the past few weeks. I've been sort of pushing a lot of Graham Potter propers, what you will call. Yeah. I sort of really, I really admire his style of play and the sort of. I don't know. I've read something when he got that Brighton job. I don't know if you've seen, but apparently when he was interviewed for that Brighton job, they were interviewing him as much as he was interviewing them. So he was like, "Am I the right person for you to take on? Like, can you meet my needs, etc." Which I think would be perfect for somewhere like United.
And so you want him at United, yeah? You think?
Yeah. I would like him at United, definitely. I really think he's a top manager.
I agree.
Yeah,
because even last year, I think they obviously weren't getting the results, but it was quite obvious that this year they were going to have quite a strong start to the season because you can't keep playing so well for me, and not sort of getting what you deserve. It's sort of vice versa to United, where I felt like last year they were scraping it, and then eventually you can't just keep scraping results. You will start losing, like complete verse.
Completely agree.
Situation, really.
Yeah, it's a great point that because they were top of like the XG table for quite a few months. And me and my uncle kept saying, because I watched the games with my uncle, and we kept saying if they had a striker, they'd be like a top 6 team, maybe not top 6, but they'd be like really high up in the table.
They had a good team then. There's a few other players that they're missing as well.
Oh yeah. There's obviously a few holes in the team, etc. But they just weren't up to the races this weekend. Obviously, Newcastle is still winless, which we'll talk about in a second. But Brighton just weren't up to the races.
No, they weren't quite the best, were they? No. It's not a result that surprised me, though, because I'm pretty sure they went to Norwich and drew 0-0. Like, they seem to have these sort of results in the locker.
Yeah.
They'll win. Yeah, they'll win some games that you probably didn't expect them to win. But then, like even the point away at Anfield's obviously a point, especially 2-0 down. There's no way you expect that to happen.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Then they'll get a point only on Newcastle and only get a point at Norwich. But that seems to be the way sort of Brighton end up somehow in that sort of situation.
Yeah, and the goalkeeper, like there was drama in this game from basically minute one. It was it's obviously always an entertaining game watching Brighton because of the way they play, but obviously from the last minute you've got Robert Sanchez getting sent off, and you're thinking surely Newcastle are going to sort of target the goal now. Surely they're going to have a goal, especially as they had a free kick. And they just didn't target. They just didn't even take any shots.
Yeah, they got that free kick, didn't they? You thought for the life of it, they were going to just lay it off to John Joe Silva to have a shot, and he just sort of did like a lofted ball to the back post. I'm thinking, what? Just have a shot, and then they got a corner, and the same thing happened. I think they highlighted a match of the day as well that what was going on, and they sort of couldn't understand it. And I was sort of with their viewpoint. I just couldn't understand what was going on.
No, it was quite ridiculous. We'll get on to Newcastle though. Obviously, there's still a lot of drama involving Newcastle in the sense of off the pitch. They've just got Eddie Howe.
Yeah.
My point of view with this is obviously it looks like they're going to get relegated, but my point of view with this is Eddie Howe's going to have to try and keep them within reach of safety up until January, and then in January get some important signings in and go for it in the sense of just try to stay up as much as you can. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
because that squad's definitely not good enough to win the league. To stay up. Sorry, I'm thinking about United there.
Starting with the Eddie Howe thing, I think he's a good person to point. I think he knows the league well. He's done it. He got relegated in his final season at Bournemouth. But I swear Villa should have been relegated had that goal gone in anyway or something like that. But But he had 4 successful seasons beforehand where they finished in reasonably good positions. I think they got up to 9th in one year. And I think with the squad that, it's a bit better than Newcastle is now, but it's not an amazing squad by any means. He obviously knows players like Wilson, Fraser. He mentioned before Richie as well. I think it's quite a sort of a big character in the Newcastle team, definitely. I think, like you said, get to January there or thereabouts, and then push on from there, really.
Yeah, they're going to have to. I was sort of discussing with someone yesterday whether it would be an ideal situation, obviously not for the fans, but for the club to maybe get relegated and then plan what they're going to do going forward. Obviously, with the new owners, they're going to spend money like mad. It's obviously never good for a club to get relegated, but in the sense of making the most out of a bad situation if they do get relegated, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, I know. I think getting relegated for a club's never good anyway.
No,
But what like a lot of clubs struggle because when they go down, they don't have the money to sort of fund the wages that the players are on, because obviously they drop off from the Premier League wage structure to a Championship wage, which is quite massive. But with Newcastle, that isn't going to be an issue. So I think they'll probably bring players in regardless who are willing to take that step down, knowing that they're going to go straight back up. So all it does for me is add another year onto their sort of their plan of getting where they want to be, I guess.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with you. I think they'll end up getting the mad signings in a few years. The what you would call like maybe Mbappe's, but not Mbappe. But do you know what I mean? Yeah, the superstar signings. We're going to go on to Crystal Palace, who are another team better than United. They've started really well, like in the first 10 games, considering that squad.
Yeah, they have. Yeah.
And they've got a really good style of play in the sense of how effective it is. I remember against Arsenal, they probably should have won that game.
Yeah, they should have won that.
Yeah, if it wasn't for that last minute equaliser, they should have won that game. They've beat Wolves 2-0. They're just on fire, aren't they?
They dropped a point in the last minute against Brighton as well, where they let Maupay go through and chip the keeper.
Oh yeah. I wasn't watching that game.
They've conceded 2 sort of complete last minute goals that literally the last kick in both scenarios, where on another day, obviously, they'll have 4 more extra points in the league, and they've been in a really good position there. But I think Vieira's continuing to do a really good job. And I think Zaha made a point after the beat Man City 2-0, where he was saying something along the lines of that they like it a bit more with the freedom that obviously Vieira gives them compared to the Hodgson sort of style.
Yeah.
It means they can go on and win these games rather than maybe drawing 0-0 to Man City like they did last year, or caving in with the pressure that the constant defending puts you under. And maybe losing the game. He ended up actually winning the game 2-0 because of it.
Of course, yeah. And you've got Conor Gallagher, who I was speaking about when he was on loan at West Brom. And I was saying he's a diamond in the rough in that West Brom team. He looked really good. And I was sort of I kept having that debate during lockdown football, if that makes like when football was on during lockdown.
Yeah.
I kept having that debate with my uncle saying, is he good enough? Would he be good enough in a team that's maybe mid-table or maybe there or thereabouts mid-table, like Crystal Palace? And he seems to be proving it week in, week out that he's good enough.
Definitely. I mean, Leeds were actually filling up. We were linked with him in the summer, and he sort of had a choice between us and Palace, and obviously ended up chasing Palace, I think, because we don't offer him first team football. But I think probably wanted to stay in London as well. But there was definitely a player in there. I mean, you've seen his sort of star qualities now. I think he's been arguably the best player this year with Zaha and a few others.
Yeah.
But he's doing fantastically well. Yeah.
It's going to be a big miss for them when he does go back to Chelsea, because he's still on loan from Chelsea, isn't he? So it's obviously they're obviously going to try and buy him, I'd assume, if they can afford him. But
he gets in like the rotation squad for Chelsea. Like I think Barkley came in at the weekend for Chelsea, and I think he's better than Barkley. So
he's definitely he's definitely better than Barkley.
I mean, he wouldn't obviously start every week for Chelsea, but especially when they're doing the rotation that they obviously do. He definitely played games. 100%.
Yeah, I agree. We'll move on to Chelsea Burnley. Obviously, we've just been talking about Chelsea there. I wasn't surprised that this game ended in a draw. I did predict Chelsea to win. Yeah, it's typical because you just obviously don't win every single game unless you're that Arsenal invincible team. But it was a style in which Chelsea play obviously quite a pragmatic style, and Burnley are very well known for playing a very pragmatic style. So it was a game where you thought either Chelsea are going to batter them 4-0 or it's going to be a 1-1 or 0-0 draw. And obviously it was a 1-1 draw. But Burnley seem to be doing a lot better than I originally thought they'd do this season, where I think it maybe even me and you had that discussion where is it one season too many for Sean Dyche? And it doesn't seem to be, does it? They seem
it started to pick up a few results in recent weeks. I think they drew to Norwich, which was quite a poor result. But, But besides that, I think they beat obviously Brentford. We're struggling a bit at the moment anyway, but they beat Brentford 3-1 at home, didn't they? And they've had a sort of a rebounding form really.
Yeah, completely agree. Reece James obviously getting that assist as well. there's a lot of right backs that seem to be English at the moment. I was sort of having a joke with someone yesterday saying, I don't know if you remember, Jamie Carragher said to Gary Neville, no one wants to be a Gary Neville. And ever since then, there's been about 10 right backs that have come
there's
about.
so many. Chelsea have got like 3 brilliant right backs that they brought for their own academy. There's Livramento, Lamptey, obviously Reece James that we just mentioned there.
Yeah,
There's just there's right backs galore really for him. It really is.
Yeah, completely agree. No wonder Gareth Southgate loves him as England manager.
Yeah, I know he always picks 3 or 4, doesn't he?
Yeah, he does. Yeah, we'll go on to Norwich, who obviously Norwich versus Brentford, and there's a Brentford fan in the chat here in Hayden. Norwich get the first win, and then they sack the manager. Now it's quite a funny situation, but in all seriousness, the board have probably sat there and thought, now we've got that win, like we didn't believe we could stay up, but now we've got that win. Maybe we could stay up if we make a change, because everyone's thinking, what does this guy need to do to be sacked at this point? But now they've got that win, and they've picked up a few draws. It seems to be a situation where you think maybe they could do something. It's unlikely, but maybe they could. You know what I mean? Do you think they're too far adrift?
Well, I think with the Farke thing especially, I think it was a thing that was probably pre-planned. So they obviously didn't think they'd win the game, and then ended up winning the game. I think they thought that Brentford had beat them, to be honest. But yeah, I think Norwich, they're quite far adrift already. I know they're not quite as bad as they were, obviously, with the win at the weekend, but they are still adrift to a bit of an extent.
Yeah,
I don't think whoever they bring in within reason, because they're not going to bring in one of the best managers in the world. So I think within reason, they're just not going to bring anyone that's going to keep them in the league at all. I think to be honest.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I was just sort of thinking, from Norwich's board's point of view. Now, on to Brentford, another interesting sort of situation, because you've got Thomas Frank there, who is a decent manager, and they started very well, but they're not. They're like got 4 or 5 losses on the row now.
Yeah,
and you're thinking, is it another Sheffield United, or are they just in a bad run of form? Now, I would argue that they're just in a bad run of form. Which one would you argue?
I think I've always thought possibly they're in a bit of trouble. I'm not. For me, they could finish mid-table, but I would. My head tells me they still might go down, to be honest.
Yeah, I think the situation with Brentford is, and a lot of teams right now, it's not a case of who are you better than as a team. It's a case of how many teams are worse than you in this league. Do you know what I mean? So, for example, with Newcastle, it's how many teams are worse than you, for example, and the same with Brentford at the moment. And you sort of look at it and you say Norwich, maybe Watford, but maybe not Watford at the same time. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's a difficult situation in that sense. Do you think they will stay up if you're going to take a guess?
If I was to guess right now, I'd say they're not going to stay up.
Okay.
Is what my guess would be. They had a good start to the season, and what I've picked up with Brentford is, I think Pep said it after an interview against PSG, where he said it's the best teams, or good teams anyway, you know how good they are with how they lose. And I took a bit from that, because obviously Brentford have lost a few games and not picked up 4 points in games when I thought they'd been quite good. Like the Chelsea one, I think they've sort of battered Chelsea really and lost 1-0. Yeah. And even Liverpool, when I thought they were arguably better than Liverpool, and ended up drawing 3-3. Having said that, though, I just think they've had this obviously instant reaction coming up in the division. If it'll stick around, I'm not as convinced as some other people are, to be honest. I still would back them to go down. They'd be my 3, definitely, I think.
Okay. I'm just going to address Hayden's comments here. He's a Brentford fan. He says, I was there that day. I noticed how easy it is for teams to beat us now. We didn't have a game plan, and that cost us. We need a formation change. See, obviously, I'm not too tactically aware of how Brentford line up and stuff like that.
But they've got fullbacks to fly on.
Okay, yeah. So it's obviously a risk in this league at the moment, especially when you're not the best team. Hayden there then says, good fair point. We needed this break and it doesn't help. We're riddled with injuries. Yeah, I noticed that your goalkeeper's injured. David Raya, is it? I think his name is.
Right, yeah.
So obviously it's a difficult situation there when he's a decent keeper. But I personally hope you stay up. It's what I sort of looked at that team and thought you look like a good team to watch. So I don't know. I just sort of hope
they're definitely a breath of fresh air.
Yeah,
to the league, and I even think Thomas Frank, although people would argue he's a bit arrogant, he's better football than watching Allardyce and all these,
of course,
older, more pragmatic managers. To be honest,
of course, I completely agree.
So I'm more worried in the fact that I don't want Leeds to go down, so I'd rather Brentford keep losing and to avoid us. But besides, if I take my Leeds glasses off, I would rather them stay up than a few other teams, definitely.
Yeah. Right, we're going to have to get into this now. The derby, the Manchester derby. Obviously, you'll be glad we lost. It's a mess. It's a complete mess because we don't line up very well. We lined up with 7 defensive players at home in a derby. We had 1 or 2 shots on target. I would argue that performance was exactly the same as the Liverpool performance, just with a few worldy De Gea saves. It was completely embarrassing. But what was like, if I'm actually looking at what's wrong, obviously none of us have the answer. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer doesn't even have the answer. When we're defending, I'm going to give an example here. So I was watching Liverpool versus Atletico Madrid, and they're like that as a defense. So they're moving together. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And when United are defending, there's what like they'll just switch like that. It's like everywhere. Like there's no same. Yeah, it's like, what are you doing? I don't understand what the structure is. I don't understand what the plan is. There was no plan of execution in the game against City. People say there's no plan B. I don't even think there was a plan. I think the plan A was try not to get battered.
Do you think Ole takes a 2-0 loss before the game starts? Because I almost worried by the way the final whistle ended and how sort of you were even in the last 10 minutes.
Yeah,
that he was actually all right with a 2-0 loss.
I think it was a case of try not to get battered, otherwise I'll lose my job, sort of thing. And I know a lot of us United fans are obviously it's very hard to take the emotional connection away from the club and sort of look at it as a neutral point of view. But a lot of us are like, how is he still in a job now? I still don't know how he was in a job from that Liverpool 5-0.
But where are you on this? Because I remember when we talked last time, obviously, that you hadn't had all these bad results of recent, but you were Ole in. Are you absolutely staunch Ole out now? I'm guessing that.
It's not. I'm going to give my opinion on this, because and it's quite a long explanation. I would say that the Ole in, Ole out is a very toxic mindset to be in, and a very toxic place to be in. And I sort of got involved in that within the past few weeks. For me, my situation, my opinion on it is Ole Gunnar Solskjaer should be sacked. And I don't know if you've seen, but some fans are trying to promote a protest against the manager.
Yeah, that's horrendous.
Yeah, it's one of the worst ideas. It's going to end in trouble. Like I'm not going. I would never sort of promote anyone to go, and it's definitely not a good idea because it seems like it's going to end in trouble.
Yeah.
I think he should be sacked. I think he's very far out of his depth. And when people say, "Oh, Gary Neville backed him," I tweeted today, and Gary Neville actually liked the tweet. That I can understand why Gary Neville backed him, because I would probably be in the same situation if it was my friend. You know what I mean? But
it does make sense to me.
Yeah, for me, it's still very hard to sort of separate Solskjaer from the player to the manager. But again, I do think he's got to go. Who we bring in as a replacement right now, I don't know. I would have Ten Hag. I don't know enough about him, though. I wouldn't want Brendan Rodgers. Someone asked me. Zidane. I think I'm coming round to the idea of Zidane. Although I've heard that he's not. Well, I've not heard. I've seen the news that he's not interested.
He wants the French job, apparently, I don't know, but...
Yeah, I've seen that. Yep. And you've got Ralph Rangnick or something like that.
The Hoffenheim manager.
I think he's the head of sports and development at
Hoffenheim anyway.
Yeah. And it was very obviously it was a very out of the box name, Ralph Rangnick, and I didn't know much about him. Apparently he created what you would call the Gegen press, which is sort of a similar way to
Klopp.
Klopp.
I found out recently.
Yeah.
I think Klopp speaks highly of him from what I got.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen a few quotes from Klopp speaking of highly of him too. But obviously, like, you can't have any match-going fans. I've always said, like, match-going fans seem to back, as myself as a match-going fan, seem to back Ollie no matter what. Now you can't really back that anymore. There's not many, if any, I've seen fans that go to the matches that are backing Ole Gunnar Solskjaer anymore. I think United are sacking him, are not sacking him purely from a money point of view. I also think that the lack of forward planning is ridiculous, because when you've got a manager you knew was in massive trouble 2 weeks ago, they should have planned for this. They should have planned for this scenario, for this eventuality to happen, whether it was unlikely or not, which it was likely to happen. And he was given 3 games to save his job: the Atalanta game, the Spurs game, the Atalanta game, and the City game. Now, I thought we did very well in that Spurs game, but one win, one draw, and one loss in 3 games to save your job is not enough.
Now, well, I think even in the Atlanta game, you weren't good. If we're being totally honest, you were very poor. Probably should have lost the game and got bailed out again by a Ronaldo last minute goal, like seems to be the case every time in the Champions League.
Yeah.
But you can't. It's just not going to keep. It ain't going to keep happening. It just is not. Like, it will start to emulate your league form. You can't keep doing well in the Champions League and being terrible in the league. I think there's a suggestion that you still could win the Champions League, but for me, if you're performing so badly in the league, you can't cross up. Like, you're either playing well or you're not. It's not like you can turn it on for one game in the Champions League and then not. It just doesn't line up for me. I think
it doesn't work.
The fact you've been bailed out in the last minute is the reason you're doing well in the Champions League.
It seems that this is the last roll of the dice for Ollie, because changing from 4 at the back to 5 at the back, and then 5 at the back to 4 at the back again at half time against City was ridiculous. It was obviously to try and save his job. Now, I don't know if you were, even if you were watching it on TV, I don't know how the crowd sort of sounded on the TV when Donny van de Beek came on. But when Donny van de Beek came on, it was a message towards Ollie. There was a massive cheer. We got like a what you would call a hero reception. And it was a message towards Ollie to sort of say, this isn't acceptable, the way you're treating these players, the way you're utilising the squad. Now, if you're asking me, do I think this squad would win the league with another manager? I don't. I think if we carry on in this form under Ollie, I think we're going to get around 8th. And I think if we sacked Ollie and got another manager in, I think top 4. I think there's too many holes in the squad. Me personally, if you're asking me, what holes do I think? I think we need 3 midfielders, central midfielders. I think we need a right back. Yep. A Pogba replacement. Sorry, go on.
So, because for me, you need a holding midfielder. That's the key. But
that's a key position. Yeah, I would agree.
So you need a holding midfielder and then 2 other sort of at number 8s. Then,
I would argue that. Yeah. For me, that Atalanta game sort of symbolised the fact that I'm sort of done with Pogba unless he does something like contributes to us winning the league or the Champions League, because his inconsistency is just it's not enough to warrant £360,000 a week or a new contract £500,000 a week. It's just not enough to warrant that, in my opinion.
Yeah, I completely agree.
So I would argue we need a holding midfielder, 2 central, like 2 box-to-box midfielders, and a right back. A lot of people are saying, why do I think a right back when Wan-Bissaka hasn't? He's been one of our best defenders, and then I would argue our defenders have all been rubbish, bar Varane when he's been in. Do you know what I mean? So he's the best of a bad bunch at the moment. Everyone gets a chance under a new coach when a new coach comes in, and there's so many layers to argue with this, because, like, basically arguing it all day, every day on Twitter. Do you know what I mean? It's going back and forth again and again, but it's such a toxic situation at the moment. I don't think I've ever seen the fan base as toxic as it is now. But it's just a horrible situation to be in. What do you think about it as a sort of an outsider?
Well, for starters, Ollie is well out of his depth. I think that's blatantly obvious. For me, you just Pogba. I'm actually of the same opinion. You get shot. He's actually just not worth the stress that comes along with having Paul Pogba.
The headache.
I'd say for me though, you just all you need actually is a number 8, possibly a holding midfielder and a right back. I'd agree with the right back as well. I think Dalot, we haven't seen enough of him, but I just don't quite think he's going to be at the level. Wan-Bissaka, he's not good going forward. It's just is how it is. Like I know it's again an obvious thing to say, but it's fact. It just isn't.
Yeah.
It's just defensively he's all right, but his positioning has never been that good. And we saw it at the weekend. I think, admittedly, he's set up poorly probably from OLE, but it's basics. I think
he seems to always be 2 to 3 seconds late to his man.
Yeah, definitely.
I noticed a lot with Foden. He was always 2 to 3 seconds late, and I kept saying, "Why are you not there already? Like you should already be there." Like Foden's a very good player, as much as I don't like to admit it. So you should already be there prepared. Especially when he has had some man of the match performances, and some of his best performances for United have been against City. He should know that by now at the moment. Kashif says here, who would your preference be in terms of holding midfield signing? If you're looking at West Ham, you've got to say Declan Rice. Would you say we need Declan Rice?
Yeah, Declan Rice is I think it's just how much it's going to cost. But if you're picking anyone out of anywhere in the world for me right now, Declan Rice is just definitely the option to go for me.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree. He seems to have come on leaps and bounds over the past 2 years. Even now, he's improving every single game. It seems.
I think that. He's even got better for me because I was questioning him defensively. I think there was never a question mark with that because he's already played centre back, so he's obviously he knows how to defend, doesn't he?
Yeah.
I mean, we have Man United centre halves have question marks for that, but going forward, I think he's improved. He scored a goal away in the Europa League where he just ran through everyone and put it in there. I think he's just all-round game has come on leaps and bounds. And, I mean, the whole West Ham team has, but I think him especially is arguably one of the best in that position in the world now for me. To be honest.
Yeah, I agree. I was having the debate before, like I mean, literally 20 minutes before we went live with my uncle, and he was on it was quite a short debate. He was on a break from his lunch at work, but we were sort of discussing whether is there a worse manager than OLE in the league or a worse coach? And he sort of said no comment with sort of laughing, sort of hinting he probably is the worst coach in the league.
Yeah, I'd say he is. Which is madness really, managing Man United, but it just is true.
Yeah, it is true. Yeah. I don't know how many times what it's going to take for him to be sacked. And you've got people joking, saying, "Oh, he'd survive anything. Like he'll survive getting battered 5-0 and survive literally anything, any result at this club." I don't think he will. I think there's got to be a time where they say, where it comes to an end.
You just don't want to leave it too long to the point where you're so far adrift to top four that you're actually struggling to get top four.
Yeah,
that's what I'd worry about, because I think in the Mourinho season you didn't end up getting top four, did you? Even though he obviously came in and did quite a good job for enough. But you don't want a situation. Is it like 4 or 5 points you're off now, top four?
Let me just make sure of that there. 1 second.
You're on 17, I believe. I can't remember at top four.
Yeah, so you've got Liverpool on 22. We're on 17. Yeah, so it's 5 points.
5 points. So you don't want that gap opening up anymore, because that's already starting to become a gap that's ground to do. And I don't think you've got particularly easy fixtures like Chelsea coming up at Stamford Bridge, which is I don't think you've got a good record down at the best of times.
Well, right now. It's like I was sort of discussing. I was saying to people, no game for United seems to be an easy game. You look at the fixture list and you say we should be able to drift past them. For example, Aston Villa, or we should be able to drift past Southampton, like other teams do at the top level. But we seem to make hard work of every single game. And you're looking at the next game, and I'm dreading it. It's like literally on my birthday. So it's like they're going to stress me out on my birthday against Watford. And you're looking at that and you're thinking, that's not an easy game. Claudio Ranieri's just took charge. And I know as much as they just lost 1-0 to Arsenal, which we will discuss, they seem to be playing better than they were under Xisco, I think his name is.
Yeah. Xisco, Moon.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, it's something similar to that, but we make no game easy for ourselves in any sense of the word. So it's sort of we've got to be fighting against. We're already like 1-0 down, if that makes sense, every single game. I don't know if that makes sense. We're already at a disadvantage every single game, I should say, because the way we set up, the way we coached, because of the coaches, it's just not good enough.
Yeah, I mean, you usually find yourself 1-0 down anyway in
Yeah,
actually just
every game. Yeah,
second
it's
half
ridiculous.
FC and all this.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to move on to a team which I'm going to come out with a quite controversial thing here. I don't even know if it is controversial to say. This West Ham versus Liverpool game, I think they're an outside shout for the league title, like a little bit like Leicester. But I really think they're a strong side. I'm not sure about you. I'm not sure what you think. I'll ask your thoughts in a minute. But to sort of, they didn't tactically boss, obviously, Klopp, but they went toe to toe with Liverpool and they beat them. David Moyes is a very, very, very good coach.
Yeah, he's doing amazing. Like, generally amazing.
Completely. People are saying would have taken back at United, and I probably would now. But I think at the time
that ship sailed on it, really. But
yeah. Completely agree. In a hypothetical scenario.
Yeah.
At the time,
anyone you'd probably take yourself over on it, to be honest.
Oh yeah. Well, it's not all about like going back to Ole. It's also not all about who is better than Ole. It's about who is the man that can challenge Klopp, Pep, and Tuchel. Do you know what I mean? Because there's a lot of managers better than Ole. Most managers in the league are better coaches than Ole. They just wouldn't challenge the top 3 managers in the league. Yeah. Now we'll go on to West Ham now. So, what do you think? Do you think that they are an outside shout for the title or top 4?
I mean, it's a wild statement, but they are doing quite well. I don't think they're going to get anywhere near the league. I think maybe on the league where the other teams are in transition, you've got a chance. Because even though Leicester, the year they won the league, I think Spurs were the closest challengers that year, and I think they ended up bottoming right at the end and didn't get a second anyway. But they were sort of the closest competition. Whereas I think this year, the issue West Ham are going to have if they want to be anywhere near the league title is the fact that Liverpool, Chelsea, and Man City are all not in a transitional phase and just really good. So I think maybe on another Premier League season, yes. This Premier League season, not a chance for me. I don't think really.
Okay, that's interesting. Obviously, it's quite a very reactionary thing to say, and I'm not normally very, very reactionary. I was just it's just when I sort of looked at the league table today, and even position. They're in a great position. I think they're only 3 points behind City, and you're saying at that point it's like kind of very interesting at that point. But with Liverpool, it was obviously it's any loss is a bad loss, but it's a loss where, in my opinion, they can look at it and say some things went wrong. But the West Ham were just a better side, and West Ham are a very, very good side, as we've said. Do you agree, or do you think that's a loss where they need to rectify things?
I thought that Liverpool controlled the game for the large majority of it. I just think West Ham are so sort of streetwise, and everything, like all the basics. The basics are so sort of overlooked in modern game. I think like set pieces and stuff like that. And West Ham are just unbelievable at all of that. Yeah. They don't make mistakes. They're brilliant at set pieces. They don't concede set pieces. And when they go forward with conviction and they move the ball quickly. And just that alone, because they're so... I think that actually the basics, you could argue, one of the best teams in the league, if not even the best, because I think they've scored the most corners anyway.
Yeah.
So because they're so good at the basics, I think Liverpool struggled with that. And obviously they conceded 2 set pieces. That's all, and they got hit on just on the break. I don't think Alisson had his best game, to be honest, because I feel like he should do better with the first goal. I don't think it's a foul, but I think he should do better with it.
No, yeah.
And then I think the Fornals one he should save as well, to be honest. So I think on another day, maybe not. They may not have won, but I thought, these games are going to happen. You're not going to win every game, so I won't be too concerned about Liverpool fans.
I agree with you. We'll move on to your team now, Leeds versus Leicester. Now, obviously, this game wasn't on TV, so I didn't manage to catch it. Now, have you picked up some form since we last spoke? I think you have, haven't you? I think you're unbeaten in a few games. I think is it unbeaten in 4?
Well, we lost to Southampton. I'm trying to think how long was that one. That might be. I know we've had 1 loss in the last 5, so I'm guessing.
Okay.
So I think we're unbeaten in the last 3 maybe. But we obviously won at Norwich, beat Watford since then. But yeah, I think we played the best we've played all season at the weekend, without a shadow of a doubt. And it's for me, we just didn't have a midfield, and we had Adam Forshaw in midfield. He hadn't played for I think 208, just an unbelievable amount of time in the league. The year we got promoted, the season we got promoted to the Premier League, he got injured in about the start of that season. So that's how long he's been out for. And he came in, but even just because he was actually a midfielder, we were so much better at controlling the game and recycling possession and stuff like that. Back to almost our best, really. Not quite on it, because last year I think it was quite underrated, the fact that we were actually quite ruthless in front of goal. I think we got a pocket that we weren't, but compared to how we were in the Championship, we were quite ruthless. Well, we've almost gone back this year to not being ruthless anymore. Yeah, and we struggled with that on the weekend. But when it comes to actual performance level, we were a lot better the weekend. Yeah, miles better. The best we've been all season for me, to be honest.
Yeah, it seems you dominated the game as well. From 18 shots to Leicester's 9, and I know you only had 5 on target, but still, from 18 shots, you would be hoping to score at least 2. Do you know, maybe well, not 2, but 1 or 2, as you've scored obviously 1 and drew 1 all. Yeah. It would have been nice for you to get that win, obviously not for us, as it would have been another team moving closer to us. But yeah, Leicester seem to not be as consistent as they have been in recent years.
Yeah, they were the race at the weekend for me at all, Leicester. I thought they created a few decent openings, but a lot of their openings for me came from just typical Leeds mistakes. Like Tielemans had a good chance because Liam Cooper's lost it on the edge of our own penalty area, and nearly ended up scoring from that. And they did have openings, Leicester, but they weren't on it by any means. They've struggled a bit, Leicester, recently. I don't think they're doing particularly well in the Europa League either.
No, I've seen a few of the results. I think they had that game where Daka had this like man of the match performance.
Yeah, where he scored like 4 goals.
Yeah, exactly. And then I don't think they've done well. I think they've done all right, but not particularly great when you would expect them to.
I thought Daka should have come on at the weekend, actually, because I thought Jamie Vardy wasn't particularly involved in the game. And Daka, I think, could have definitely offered something, but didn't happen, really.
No.
Yeah, as I said, not really went from the goal he scored as well. Surprise, came from us not concentrating off a goal, which happened against Norwich, scoring and then conceding instantly. And they just play straight ball. Barnes cuts inside, and it's a brilliant goal in the finish itself, but it's terrible defending.
Yeah. It's I rated Harvey Barnes for some reason from like 2019. I just liked his play style. I don't know, there was something about him, but he seemed to have dropped off after that injury that he got.
Yeah, he hadn't quite got back to it.
I hope he can get back to that. Obviously, you never want to see a player coming back from injury and then struggling. We'll go on to Everton versus Tottenham. Now, I don't want to say that it's Antonio Conte football yet, but it was 0-0.
Antonio Conte football, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It is Antonio Conte football, and I know I'm here moaning about Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and saying he's one of the worst coaches in the league. But for Spurs to have 0 shots on target, that's why I didn't want Antonio Conte at United. Against an Everton team who aren't in the greatest form as well. I know they got a man sent off in the last minute. I seen that challenge yesterday. It was definitely a red card. Mason Holgate. But 8 shots and 0 on target, and it's just not looking. It's not going to be a great 18 months for Spurs, is it? I don't think.
No, it's a weird one, because they played against Betis in the conference division or whatever, and they were 3-0 in about half an hour and ended up winning the game 3-2. I mean, they made really hard work to continue 3-0, and I thought, they're going to start scoring goals again, and then they play away at Everton, a struggling Everton really. And they don't get a shot on target. It just seemed very odd. I thought they'd definitely score. I thought Kane would sort of revitalise his form again instantly. To be honest, but it obviously didn't happen. I've only seen the highlights of the game. I haven't actually seen.
No, I didn't think that Kane would revitalise his form. I think this with Kane now. I think he's completely feels disrespected by like the senior figures like Daniel Levy and I think Joe Lewis, who's the owner as well. Yeah. Obviously, in his eyes, there was a verbal agreement there, which in sort of business terms to Daniel Levy as sort of a hard businessman, it's don't mean nothing, a verbal agreement. You'd need it in writing. So I think Kane's just completely down tools for Spurs now. And I think he will end up leaving. I think City may even buy him for 100 million in January as an outside sort of transfer, which will be difficult for both clubs to do. But City have struggled without a striker in a few games. Obviously, not the game against United, but in a few games they have. So it's an outside shout. It could go there again. Do you think that it is?
Yeah, I do think part of because Conte didn't go in the summer, did it? Because he wanted a lot of money and a few other things to occur, which Spurs were willing to offer him. But then, obviously, when he went to now he's come back now, and obviously they're basically saying, yeah, you can have what you want in essence. And I almost feel like one of their agreements might be that Kane stays at least till the end of the year. Would be a guess I have, or if the fact. Well, I suppose if they sell him, then they've got more money to spend. But I would have thought Conte would have agreed that he wouldn't be moving on. But I could be wrong.
They were discussing on Saturday, social. I don't know if you watch it. So it's on Sky Sports in the mornings on Saturdays. They were discussing how can Antonio Conte fix Spurs and can he win a trophy in the next 18 months? I'm not sure that he can in 18 months. I think the rebuild will take a lot longer than 18 months with the mentality of the squad as well. It's not just the players that aren't good enough. It's the mentality and to get the mentality of losing a semi-final or losing a final like United. The mentality needs to be changed. So I think it's going to be quite difficult for them to win a trophy in the 18 months. Do you think it's going to be difficult, or do you think he'll manage?
I actually don't think the Carabao Cup and stuff like that is something they couldn't win. I think there's a possibility that could happen. If they're going to be anywhere near the league, no. Are they going to win the Champions League? No, they probably won't be in the Champions League. Never mind in it. They might win the Europa League possibly, but yeah, they're not the big two. They're not anywhere near for me.
No.
But Conte, he is a bit like Mourinho in the fact that you always think he might do something. But we saw Mourinho didn't work at Spurs. Obviously, didn't win them a trophy.
No,
for me that there is a reason why he's decided now to go to Spurs, which he didn't obviously in the summer. And I think he will be backed. Actually, I do think he will be backed. So I've been because if they buy a few good players, if they buy, I think the terrible in defence besides Romero, I think he's not a bad player.
Yeah.
I think Reguilon's not particularly a bad fullback either, but I don't really rate this Emerson Royale from what I've seen. But in a wing back, maybe it might be better because we've seen obviously Victor Moses managed to do well there. So anyone can do well. But if they bring in these players, then maybe they could win something. They might be in the top 4 next year, maybe.
I think they'll be there or thereabouts, as that's what I've known Spurs for basically. Yeah,
Conte will think he can do it because I don't think he would have joined if he didn't think he could win something.
Oh no. Yeah,
maybe he could do.
Yeah, I agree.
He always going to back his ability in it. So
move on to a team that where I've had to admit even another coach is better than Ole. Yesterday I admitted it. Arteta and Arsenal. Now it wasn't the greatest game for Arsenal. Let's be honest, they didn't dominate or anything like that, but they got that win, and it's about getting them wins when you can't dominate a game, which we struggle with. And it was an interesting game to watch because it's like Watford are all right. As in they've been playing all right under Ranieri in the past few games. Obviously that 5-0 against Liverpool was an anomaly that they were just on the best at Gear 1 Liverpool that day. But Arsenal are now unbeaten in like 5 or 6 games, something like that.
It might have been longer than that. I think it's a real long time now.
Yeah, it might. Yeah, since like the start of the season sort of thing.
And it's since because they lost did they lose the first 3 or something like that? And I think
they lost the first 3. Yeah, because they lost against Brentford. I think did they lose against Leeds?
No, we didn't. We haven't played them.
No.
Man City lost 5-0.
Yeah, they lost 5-0. Yeah, and then they lost another one.
I feel like they lost another game. I can't remember. Yeah. Oh, Chelsea lost 2-0 to Chelsea.
Oh, yeah.
It was.
Because everyone was saying it's a tough start for Arteta and Arsenal, and he could lose his job there.
Yeah, it was Brentford, Chelsea, and Man City. And I think since the Man City game, he's undefeated, which is because they played Norwich the week after, didn't they? And I think they won 1-0. And since then they've dropped points here and there. I think they dropped points at Brighton. Obviously, dropped points at Palace at home.
Yeah,
but for the whole, they've been very, very good.
The defense looks really good.
It
But
does.
all the signings look like they're settling in. You've got Albert Sambi-Lokonga looking good. Nuno Tavares looking good. Ramsdale looking really good with some man of the match performances. And Ben White, who I said I didn't want at United, doing well. We could do with him right now over Maguire.
Yeah, Ben White's doing amazing though. I saw him at Leeds, and I knew he always sort of knew he was going to be a top defender, and he's proven to be that really. I didn't think quite the 50 million was obviously a bit high, but looking back now, it's you get what you pay for, don't you? Really?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah.
And next to Gabriel, I think that balance is tops really, because I'm pretty sure he's a bit more physical, Gabriel, and good in the air and stuff like that. Whereas that's probably Ben White's sort of main errors.
Yeah, I think he got beat in the air, didn't he? Against it was against Brentford at the start of the season.
Yeah, he got bullied by Brentford and Ivan Stone and people like that.
Yeah. So obviously, like you say, that balance is good. Whereas, like for example, Maguire and Lindelof, when they do play together, there's no balance there.
That's the best way of putting it. Maguire and Lindelof don't complement each other at all, and it just shows you when there's two centre backs that actually do complement each other how good they can be. I also think people like Tomiyasu are looking amazing at right back as well. Defensively, going forward, there's obviously question marks. I don't think terrific going forward.
I think he's been very underrated so far, Tomiyasu.
Yeah, he's a really good guy.
Yeah, he's settled in really well.
Tavares and Tierney, two. This Tavares looks
left back.
8 million looks an absolute steal. When we know how good Tierney is.
Yeah,
Lokonga, like you mentioned, Ramsdale. It's just going. They're in a good phase, Arsenal. It's just going well from at the moment.
Yeah, they could be an outside shout for top 4. Obviously, at the start of the season, you're saying no chance of they getting top 4. They just finished 8th for 2 seasons on the run. But they could be an outside shout for top 4. They're certainly better than us at the moment. So we'll go on to Watford, though, the last team to discuss. Do you think they're going to manage to stay up under Ranieri? Do you think he's going to be able to do anything?
I think they're going down as well, to be honest.
No, I do. Yeah, I agree. I think Norwich and Watford are sort of definitely guaranteed to go down.
I think they've the difference between them is I think they have got a few, like they've got a one star player for me in Sarr, obviously, is well known, he's a good player. Yeah. And they've got like Dennis, who scores a few goals, and a few of the players that you think, they're not bad players. I even think Sissoko in midfield's not an awful. He's Premier League standard for me.
Definitely,
he's good at what he's good at. He's not an all-rounder player, but what he can do, he does all right. Ben Foster's an all right goalkeeper. He's not amazing, but he does well. And they could stay in the league. I actually did predict him to stay in the league at the start of the season. I thought Brentford and Norwich should go down. I thought they'd stay up, but I am starting to wonder if it's going to be 3 up, 3 down. To be honest, now.
Yeah, completely. I think Watford will go back down and Norwich will go back down. It's just who's worst out of them teams, out of Newcastle, Burnley, and then you've got quite a few others, aren't you? There and thereabouts. But it's been quite a few depressing game weeks for me. But just hoping that it's going to get better. I'm going to ask you about England, obviously, as England play. I was having this discussion with this girl who like she watched football a lot and she's more like ingrained in the international breaks than I am. I don't seem to watch England every single.
No, I'm not. It didn't fully interest me, to be honest, and I should, but I don't know. I'm not a particular big fan of Southgate, if I'm being honest with you. No. I think his football's dry.
Especially when we've got the best like attacking talent we've had in many years, and he don't utilise it. Graham Potter would be a good candidate for that England job.
Someone who's just going to get the best out of the attacking talent. I think.
Yeah.
You look at Mancini and what he did. If you can get a coach who's good, I think at international level you can make a lot happen really with a good coach.
Definitely.
I don't think it's had the best team by any means. I think it got overlooked how good that team was. I actually think it's a decent team, but it's not. It wasn't nowhere near one of the best teams in
no, definitely not. By any means. So we've got like San Marino and Albania, and I was saying to this girl, we'd sort of expect to stay up against them, to expect to win against them. Sorry, expect to sort of dominate, but not dominate. If that makes sense. So dominate in defence.
We probably will, but they're just such dry. To be honest, if it was up to me, I think we need the whole international scene just needs a whole revamp. I think. These games are playing San Marino. I mean, what's the point? Like, I just don't.
Yeah. And then we struggle when it comes to actual like genuine competitive games. For example, against Italy. Exactly.
You don't learn anything against San Marino. It's just even Albania. They're just not.
They're not of that standard that we're going to be competing with.
Well, the way I look at it is in the Premier League now, because the top 4 in the Premier League are known as really good, they get automatic qualification to the Champions League because they're going to be in the Champions League and that they're good enough. So why the top teams in the global international scene don't have the same sort of thing happen to them? I'm not quite sure. I don't quite know how you do it, obviously. Because but there needs to be a workaround. I just it baffles me, to be honest, that this international. Why we play San Marino? What
we're not going to gain anything from it except try and score 5 against them again. But this girl was sort of arguing it's going to be tough for us to sort of, we've got to win both games to sort of qualify for the World Cup. It's going to be tough for us to win both games. Now I was saying surely not. Surely we win both games. Do you agree with me there? Or
San Marino will beat about 5-0 or something like that.
Yeah.
Albania are a bit tougher. If we don't win, I'll be furious, to be honest. They're not a good team by any means.
No.
And we should, as I said, we should win both.
No, yeah, I completely agree. I just wanted to ask you about them because it was sort of like on my mind. Surely we'd beat them. But we were debating about it a few nights ago. But we're going to end that episode here, guys. Thank you for tuning in. The chat's been quite active. Appreciate you for coming on, Scott. Appreciate
thanks
that.
for having me on again, I guess.
Of course. Great guest. Always good to discuss with you. This has been Kian. This has been Scott from Football Obsession, and we're out.